I'm Trench Reynolds. I write crime. It always starts the same way. A man in a suit, a flag on the lapel, a sermon about protecting children. They never mention the servers. They never mention the files. They never mention kick. Because those things don't fit on yard signs. In this episode, we're talking about South Carolina State Representative R.J. May, a man who ran on family values and fell straight through them. They called him a conservative firebrand, co-founder of the South Carolina Freedom Caucus, a loud voice in the moral panic choir. Drag queens were the threat, teachers were suspect, libraries were battlegrounds. And R.J. May? He cast himself as the last line of defense between innocent children and a collapsing society. That's how this always works. You point loudly enough at an enemy so people don't notice what's hiding behind your back. Federal court filings don't care about slogans. They care about timestamps. According to prosecutors, R.J. May used a Kik account with the subtle username of Joe Biden 69. Not satire, not parody, just the kind of juvenile nonsense you see when grown men think irony is camouflage. Through that account, investigators say May distributed hundreds of files of child sexual abuse material. Not memes, not edgy jokes, actual CSAM. This kind of material doesn't exist without victims. Real victims. Children whose abuse gets replayed every time someone clicks send. And it's Kik again. It's always Kik. The mobile messaging app that's been a repeat offender in CSAM cases for over a decade. Minimal moderation, ephemeral chats, perfect for men who think disappearing messages erases responsibility. May wasn't alone. One recipient was Christian Soto, a traveling nurse from Oklahoma City, a man with his own criminal history, a man who, according to court documents, received CSAM directly from May. This wasn't accidental. This wasn't a one-off. This was a pipeline. Let's be clear about something. None of this had anything to do with drag queens, or the LGBTQ community, or libraries, or pronouns. Those were props, distractions, a fog machine for a crime scene. The men screaming the loudest about protecting children are often the ones hoping nobody looks too closely at their devices. That's not ideology, that's pattern recognition. When the evidence started stacking up, R.J. May reached for the last refuge of the cornered man. I was hacked. Not a typo, not a misunderstanding, a full-blown digital conspiracy. Someone else, he suggested, had taken over his Kik account. Someone else had uploaded the files. Someone else had chatted, traded, sent, and received CSAM. The problem with blaming a hacker is that hackers leave footprints, and this one didn't. May talked about digital forensics the way a Facebook commenter talks about vaccines. Buzzwords without comprehension. Confidence without competence. A lot of I heard once energy. He floated the ideas of a political enemy or foreign interference, remote access, device compromise. But he never explained how a hacker would perfectly mimic his schedule, his location, his devices, and his Wi-Fi. Because that's not how hacking works. That's how ownership works. Here's what prosecutors actually had. They didn't rely on vibes. They didn't rely on guesswork. They relied on boring, brutal consistency. The Kik account activity lined up with devices seized from May, his home internet connection, timestamps matching his physical presence, and periods of legislative travel and downtime. When the account was active, May was home. When the account went quiet, so did his network. That's not hacking, that's routine. If a hacker had taken over the account, you'd expect something messy. different IP addresses, geographic anomalies, logins from places May had never been. Instead, investigators saw connections from May's own residential internet, device fingerprints consistent over time, and no evidence of unauthorized access events. Hackers don't politely stay inside your house. May suggested malware, remote compromise, a digital ghost. But forensics exams of seized devices didn't show remote access tools, persistent malware, or account takeover artifacts. No backdoors, no remote control software, no mystery hands on the keyboard. And this is the part conspiracy theories always skip. Why would a hacker use his Kik account, communicate only with his known contacts, share material he had access to, operate on his schedule, and never monetize, escalate, or pivot? Hackers want leverage, money, chaos. This hacker apparently wanted a federal prison sentence for someone else. That's not plausible. That's fan fiction. Representing himself didn't help. It didn't expose the grand truth. It didn't embarrass prosecutors. It didn't crack the case open. It just showed how little he understood about the systems he claimed betrayed him. Courts don't reward certainty, they reward evidence. And every time May said hack, the documents said user. Eventually, the story collapsed under its own weight. R.J. May pleaded guilty. 5 federal counts. No hackers, no foreign agents, no political opponents, and no mysterious third party. Just ownership. This wasn't about technology, it was about avoidance. The hacking claim wasn't a defense, it was a delay tactic. A way to keep pretending this was complicated. It wasn't. There are victims here who will never hear this podcast. Children whose abuse became political collateral damage. Children who don't get a press conference, nor do they get a redemption arc. Their pain doesn't end at sentencing, it just stops being news. That's the part worth remembering when the next politician starts shouting about threats to children. Every scandal has a moment where the lies get tired, where the story needs too many explanations, where the truth doesn't need to raise its voice. R.J. May blamed a hacker, the evidence blamed him. Only one of those stories could survive the daylight. If you're interested in more stories like this, especially the stories that don't survive YouTube's delicate constitution, I run a website at realcrime.net. I've been writing about crime there for more than 25 years, back when the internet still felt like a bad neighborhood after dark. More recently, I've posted about the murders of Renee Good and Alex Preddy at the hands of ICE. If you want to support this work, you can do that at patreon.com/Trench Reynolds. Every contribution helps keep the lights on and the archives open. My thanks to patrons Mayor Kelly and Trish, and to even those people on the free tier. Seriously, the interest and trust mean more than I can probably articulate without getting uncomfortable. Like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the noob hype button, or whatever. As I said before, I only use desktops, so I don't know how to do that. But until next time, remember, most of us aren't important enough to be hacked. I'm Trench Reynolds, and I write crime.